I'm Athina Trakas from the OGC, and usually you would have expected my colleague Bart de Lathouwer, and he's not here at the event, so I take his position. So this mouse is very sensitive. So here we go. Yeah, actually,
it's not on that one.
Matthias' presentation was a perfect intro to mine, or vice versa. I leave it to you to decide. I will talk a little bit about the OGC. We have heard a lot. Barbara mentioned it. Matthias mentioned that. What is the OGC? We are not, GEO's, the GEO Common Infrastructure is based on OGC standards, and therefore it might be interesting for those who want to develop apps that they have also a look into or an understanding of OGC standards. So, a few words about the OGC and a few words about OGC and GeoGeos. Cross-boundary information sharing is a hot topic, is an ongoing topic, and I think this is nowadays and our future challenge. And I like the slides because everyone thinks, oh yes, I cannot share data between Germany and Switzerland. But there are also borders between two ministries in the same country, or between two departments in the same organization. And there might be differences between me and you, borders. We cannot talk, you're male, I'm female, and many other things. And therefore, the accessibility of data is important. And the most important thing is, though, that you talk to each other. If you don't talk to each other, how is the other person how can the other person understand what your issues, what your problems are? The person might think, hey, we're talking about the same topic, but you're talking past each other. What we are doing in the OGC, we improve knowledge sharing and transfer for topics that need an interdisciplinary approach. Barbara showed in her cube, and I like this. We have data from the meteorological community, from the geological community. So, but how do we make this data interoperable? And in the OGC, we are addressing these different topics, and we are using standards for the OGC standards and apply them also for the different communities. So the availability of geodata is crucial for citizens, businesses, and administrations alike. It's that we have to unleash the data. But how would you share the data? Everyone talks about open data, and personally I think that's great, but if you have the data and you cannot access the data, yeah, what do you do with that? So the factor for accessibility, key factor for that is standardization, and this is the definition of common interfaces that enable interoperability. That's a 2 minutes video. I won't show it now, so you're welcome. So, but if you have time, look into that. It's really nicely done what the OGC is about. So it's about small data, about big data, it's about sensors, it's about classical cadastral information. So look into that, and I think you like it. So what is the OGC? We are a standards developing organization, and we were funded in 1994. We are not for profit and consensus-based and voluntary. So if you're working for an organization and you have to deal with interoperability and you're not a member of OGC, you can do that. Currently, we have over 475 member organizations, and one of the major assets OGC brings to the place is we have members from industry, we have members from public administration, from the local level up to the to the national level, and we have members from the research and academic sector. So Matthias from CNR is a member. We work very closely with GEO. So there are a lot of members in the room. And we have on the one side the data providers, we have the users, we have the technology providers, and we have the academic sector. And having those groups playing together and working together, I think this is a very important aspect. That's just to see our main membership comes from Europe and North America, followed by Asia Pacific and the Middle East. And what our members are doing, as I mentioned before, they develop on a consensus-based basis standards. Right now we have over 35, to be exact, 38 standards, and many of them, or some of them, are also ISO standards. As OGC, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We work together with other standard organizations. And that might be also interesting for the participants of the GEO Appathon. The standards are implemented into software, and you can find a list of the software on our website. But if you look around applications nowadays with dealing with web services, they use OGC standards. We have a broad user community, and we work, as mentioned before from Barbara, and we work very closely together with GEO, and I have some more slides on that. Many policy positions are based on OGC standards, so they underpin many SDIs. And as said, we have a lot of alliance partners. So OGC and GEOS, so the Global Earth Observation System of Systems, as Matja, he had the slide up there. The GEOS is using OGC standards. So for discovery of resources, you have catalog service for the web. Then, of course, you have the classical WMS, the web map service, web feature service. And I'm not the technical person here. If I look around, I see some people that are really technical. So if you have questions about these standards in detail, I think in the question and Q&A session, maybe we can address this in more detail. So GEOS is built on OGC standards, and we have been involved in these activities since many years. And as a matter of fact, the architecture came about in one of the activities we have done together with, or we're still doing together with GEO. That's the architecture implementation pilot. The AIP, this develops and deploys new process and infrastructures for the GEOS the GEOS architecture implementation pilot develops and deploys new process and infrastructure components for the GEOS common infrastructure GCI and the broader GEOS architecture. This implementation pilot is an ongoing process. We're currently entering phase 7, and the various phases are built on each other. So there's again information on the web. I won't show it now, but if you want to look into that, I really encourage you to do that, because over the last 7 years, we have a lot of we have done a lot of exercises bringing the data into use and have showcases. And I think this is an important thing, is we have the data and we have the researchers, but we have the funding organization or a government. They are funding research, but they want to see what you're doing with the data, or what can be done with the data, and the AIP is certainly a tool for that. And now with the GEO Appathon, that's another tool to make the data accessible and make it visible for the normal citizen, what they can do with this. That's the engineering viewpoint. Just, probably this slide, and this where the circles popped up, this is where OGC standards are included. And as I said, we are in the 7th phase, and this slide is just you can probably download the presentation later, so you can look into that in more detail. Yeah, We support the GEO Appathon. There's no question about that. And we encourage the use of the GEO's common infrastructure. We're promoting the use of Earth observation resources. That's not only imagery, but also documents, community portals. Look what is out there. And then, of course, we promote the use, uptake, and dissemination of standards. What we like also is this international character. And what would be fantastic if the results or the experience the participants of the GEO Appathon have, that they feed this back to the OGC working groups. Because these are the working groups, they're working on the standards. And if you have some findings or some gaps, identified some gaps where something doesn't work, talk to us. And here we are again on the communication side. For example, we have a lot of domain working groups, and we have one working group on Earth system science. And a way to provide feedback is either to talk to my colleague Bart de Lattau or me. You can participate in this working group. They have a mailing list, and everyone can subscribe to the mailing list. Or we have OGC technical committee meetings, and we have one in Geneva in mid of June. So you can present some of the results in this related working group. So there's a lot of ways how you can feed back your experience to the OGC. And so that's the feedback to the OGC. And now I mentioned this architecture implementation pilot where we work together with GEO. And we also welcome, or we want to have the feedback for the AIP. We will monitor the Appathon, of course. We're involved in that. And we are entering now the next phase of the architecture implementation pilot. There will be a kickoff meeting soon, and this deploys in, well, I mentioned that before. So again, if you have feedback that relates to the GEO's common infrastructure, talk again to my colleague Bart de Lattau or to people from the Standards and Interoperability Forum. And there is Stefano Nativi in the room. And he is also a person, you can talk to. And I really, this is an important thing. Communication, talk to each other, and make sure that people understand what you're talking about.